Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, as the case may be. Let me start with giving a little bit of background on Avnet, who we are and what we do. Avnet's one of the world's largest distributors of electronic components and technology products, including semiconductors, interconnect, passive and electromechanical devices, computer products, hardware, software, and solutions. Avnet plays a vital link in the technology distribution supply chain by connecting the world's leading manufacturers of technology with a very wide, broad base of customers, more than 100,000 customers globally. And we provide them with cost-effective, value-added services and solutions, and helping them to lower their total cost of ownership of acquisition of technology products. Avnet's revenues, as the slide shows here, is around $26 billion, 17,000 employees worldwide. We're in over 300 locations around the world, serving customers in over 80 countries. We were founded in 1921. We're headquartered here in Phoenix, Arizona, listed on the New York Stock Exchange for just over 50 years now. And one of the things I'd like to point out is since 1991, we've had over 80 acquisitions around the world. So just to give you appreciation of who we are, what we do, and how big we are. So our M&A strategy, as I said before, has resulted in a lot of complicated issues. Today, we have probably 130 plus entities for whom we're hedging on behalf of in Treasury, and we're a fairly lean organization in the Treasury team. We're 11 people globally spread across those 4 regional Treasury centers. So, echoing what was said before, when acquisitions come at the fast and furious pace sometimes, a lot of people are stressed out, and there's a lot of need to coordinate and communicate. Overall, our team does a very good job in doing that. Some of Avnet's foreign exchange program requirements are to support the exposure management process on a frequency as needed. And what I mean by that is, depending on the size of the company that we have, whether it's a newly acquired company or a company that is already in our stable, one of our other requirements are global visibility with regional responsibility for execution. So there's constant communication among the regional Treasury centers and between the Treasury centers and corporate as to how progress is being made to improve our foreign exchange risk management program, as well as and especially for acquisitions that are ongoing. There's always something going on in the pipeline of acquisitions, and we always have conversations sometime between constantly between the time the sales and purchase agreement is signed and the completion in preparing for these acquisitions and making sure the roles and responsibilities are clearly communicated and the process is clearly defined on not only who's going to do what, but what's going to be managed. And then, again, the key requirement is incorporating the new businesses quickly and efficiently. And one of the things probably many of you know is the systems don't get integrated right away. Typically at Avnet, the systems integration of a newly acquired company might take, 30, 60, 90 days from the day that we complete the acquisition, and maybe for strategic reasons we keep them separately. That creates its own set of challenges because no longer can you or you cannot include those data source into the existing stream that you have, but you need to handle that in a separate basis and try to integrate that into your system. And then the third thing that I'd like to mention is over the years, whether it was designing the existing program we have or working on continuous improvement initiatives, we leverage our operational excellence team, a team of black belts in process improvement, and they help us to ensure that we have an efficient process regarding accounting and exposure definition. It's really important to work in a project environment when looking at some of these larger acquisitions as well as ongoing process improvement to ensure that you have lean processes in place and it's efficient, because one of the things here at Avnet, as I mentioned to you before, is we have a fairly lean staff, and we just can't hire additional employees very often to, just because we're acquiring more companies. And that creates, a lot of stress and strain, as I said. But if you have a good, efficient program in place, well-defined process, you'll be able to integrate companies efficiently and effectively. So here's the global footprint, or the high-level solution footprint for our exposure risk management program. If I took a look at this 7 years ago, before we got together with our operational excellence team, you'd probably see a bunch of spreadsheets and a telephone. And it really is the truth. Prior to the current solution footprint that we have, which has been in place for about 3 years or so, everything was done manually. And one of the drawbacks of that is, we thought we could do fairly well, but as the acquisitions mounted up, we experienced a lot of what I would call self-inflicted wounds, or just manual process errors. And through working with our OpEx team and mapping out the processes involved in foreign exchange, risk management, and acquisitions, we've been able to create a fairly efficient global footprint for our solution here. On the left-hand side, you'll see all of the ERP source data systems that are generating exposure files based on general ledger totals each day. We get balances that come in to our FiREapps cloud-enabled solution. The files come in on a daily basis. Down at the bottom, we have other exposure sources, as you will see. So this is typically where a newly acquired company will come in. As I said, on day one, we do not have them integrated into our SAP systems or Oracle system. On day one, we have to make sure that we have in place process roles and responsibilities communicated, and a process in place to capture the exposures of the newly acquired company on day one. Typically, that comes in one of two ways. One is we develop, prior to closing, a process for extracting out of their financial system the tables that we need, and we upload them into FiREapps either through an automated transform process, or we upload them manually through an Excel spreadsheet. And in that way, on day one, we have the exposures folded into our existing program so we can manage them. There may be hedges outstanding on that day. If they carry over through the acquisition, we'll build them into our system. So again, on day one, we've got the newly acquired company transmitting the exposures into our FiREapps foreign exchange risk management solution. In that way, we can combine those exposures of the newly acquired company in with the other exposures for that region. The Treasury team will manage the identification of risk within the FiREapps solution. The way that works is, basically, our files come into the FiREapps solution. It goes through a filtering process based on what I would call FAS 52 or the ASC 830 codification rules for revaluation. And basically, we're mirroring the foreign exchange revaluation that goes on in the general ledger or in the financials of our subsidiaries. We're mirroring that in FiREapps, producing a exposure file. Treasury is the steward of this process in each region on a global basis. So I know that, if it's Monday in Hong Kong, for example, our Treasury team is running through this process. And then later on in the day in Brussels, the Treasury team there is running through the exact same process. They're taking these files, they're filtering them down to exposure reports, they're analyzing the exposures, and they're preparing them through getting hedge recommendations. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see FXall, which is our foreign exchange execution and confirmation cloud-enabled solution. Both FiREapps and FXall are available to all Treasury people on a global basis. And I think that's one of the things that I would just mention with this cloud-enabled software. We have people entering into this software, or Treasury teams globally, and we've never had a problem having them access it, unlike some other, how shall I say, homegrown systems that we've developed on BW, which sometimes have some compatibility issues with users coming in from Asia or Belgium trying to access it. So the cloud-enabled solutions work very well for us. So what we do, continuing on with our process here, once we have the hedge recommendations prepared, we automatically update them into FXall, where we're getting competitive bids for our foreign exchange. We execute those bids based on the best pricing that we get. We have any relationship bank that we want plugged into FXall. They provide us with our quotes. So we're getting the best rates we can from our relationship banks. And then from there, we're bringing those hedges outstanding back into FiREapps so they can be prepared for the next hedge run, the next hedging cycle. Now, the good news for us here is we also have SunGuard as a solution. This is currently being used in Europe, but we're in the process of taking a look at a treasury management system for use by Avnet's Treasury globally. And so the way that works is we believe that a footprint like this for Avnet will be a good solution in which we'll have cloud-enabled technology available for all of Treasury and also for finance teams around the world to come in as they need to. One thing I didn't mention about FiREapps is as Treasury is shepherding the exposure management process through, we also give access to the hedge recommendations and the underlying data. We give access to our finance teams around the world to come in and check a box to make sure that they are okay with the data. Perhaps there could be an incorrect accounting entry somewhere in their general ledger that got passed. They have the ability to come back to us and let us know that something might need adjustments in that case. The other good thing about this, between FXall, which has dramatically reduced our cost of hedging, and FiREapps, which has enabled us to, on a regional basis, net all of our currency pairs and go to the bank with one net transaction. So we get almost a double benefit there. We're netting all of our currency pairs on a region-by-region basis, and then we're competitively bidding them out in a more competitive way than we were in the old days with the telephone. So we can do the hedge transactions on a net basis, but then FiREapps will also separate out that net transaction on a gross basis, so we can do internal trade tickets in Europe with between our in-house bank and each subsidiary. So I know that was a lot to take in, and I'll be happy to take questions at the Q&A session. But just in summary, this solution provides Avnet with a global standard for risk identification and management. It streamlines and automates the data gathering process. It allows us, and that allows us more time to discuss the qualitative issues surrounding our data, and allows us to maybe get more involved in the operational excellence aspect of improving the data that gets fed into the system. This also provides us, you see the corporate treasurer box at the top, that's me, always looking at the data. It gives me real-time visibility into our exposures and value at risk on a entity basis as well as a enterprise-wide basis. And most importantly, it allows for us to quickly integrate newly acquired companies into the Avnet process. Allows us to do that quickly and efficiently.